Yo, yo, what is going on, brothers and sisters? Dude, holy shamoli, macaroni, all of above. There was a lot of action today. The market did a full-blown reversal, maybe one of the bigger down days of 2025, if not the biggest. We had a big stick over here, but this one was a full-blown reversal, so it's more painful. You know, one of the things I had mentioned on Twitter yesterday was that if the market gaps up, that's the pain trade because it was going to roll over anyways. That's what, the market had been telling us for quite some time. So, look, we had a little bit of a market dump today. Does it mean it's the end of the world? No, but the signs were already there. We've been talking about this for a long time. Look, NVIDIA obviously was a catalyst today. Oracle, when it gapped up on earnings, right, that was it, right? AMD, when it had its, AI news, it's still it hasn't gone anywhere, right? Even ARM had some news with the OpenAI, right? It didn't go anywhere. And so the pain, the market has already been rolling over for quite some time. And today was like a little bit of a crescendo, all right? Besides Google, which has now failed multiple gaps in a row, there hasn't been a lot of heat in a lot of these names. So I was a day early. I was trying to share NVIDIA after hours in the chat room. I think it's I had 195.50 average. And I essentially got a flat. And then today, we gapped up. We were grinding all night. We gapped up really around the same price, though. And that's also a telltale sign, right? NVIDIA is such a mover, but it was only up right this few percent. People always are expecting big ones from this, right? And so there is that aspect of things. But, one of the signs today was that there's been no stocks that have held up in this last, quarter of earnings, right? Almost all these stocks have been getting, decimated at some point. And oftentimes it's not the day of the earnings. It's a couple days later and stuff like that. So let's see what we got to do tomorrow. Doesn't mean it's the end of the road for this, but no, NVIDIA is known to also do very long consolidations. If you really see, we're at the same price as we were in August. And then, from July to November, we were really around the same price. And then from November to here, we were kind of the same price, right? And then from here to here, right, this 6 months is so NVIDIA does do this where it just sits around. It'll trend really hot and then it sits around. Part of it is it's just a huge company, right? $5 trillion company and a big float now. So it's not going to move the way it used to. So for tomorrow, we have a level to trade around, right? If you're a bull, you're okay, today was just an algo dump. It was only down 3%. Could have been worse, right? If you're a bear, you're saying, hey, the AI bubble has popped. And, if we lose this 180, then it's lights out. We're at 170, if not 200-day moving average. And those would be, probably infinitely more interesting spots. So things to just watch out for. Some signs of worry today, though. Even before NVIDIA faded off, Palantir took a huge shit right off at the gate, gapped up, and then, just 20 red candles in a row, right? $20, $20-something turnaround. I mean, that's no joke, right? But it's also really at the same price it's been at for the last 6 months. So is it the end of the world? No. It's these stocks at the same price they were 6 months ago. But you do have a date of destiny with the 200-day moving average, which it has not tested really in this whole run. Maybe right here it looks like, and then that was it, right? So, you may see some buyers in this, but if you just look at it like this, it's long in the tooth, right? If you look at it like this, you're like, okay, it just, started its downtrend. So there's a lot of different kind of views of this, but something to be mindful. On the other side, things, the AI offshoots, stocks that have been running because of AI, they got taken down. We were short this Sandis in the chat room today. I mean, this one, right, was a handful of bucks and then went to 300, right? So today was its first big stick. I think this is a short on all bounces. It may go up tomorrow. And it pops a lot, right? It's got an ATR of it's about 20% right now. It may pop up 10, 20, 30 points tomorrow, but it was down 50 points today. The top is in on this. It hasn't even tested any levels of support for a long time. The market is bearish, guys. I mean, that's just something to be mindful of. Now, look, the key is going to be there's NVIDIA loses this level, right? Does Palantir keep coming down? The rest of all these look terrible. AMD looks really, really bad too. My only saving grace, I think, if you're a bull, is if you get a big gap down tomorrow, that'll take all these stocks and kind of stretch them out below the lower Bollinger Bands. You'll have some gap fills potentially that I think could, work in your favor for a momentarily thing. But look, in a bull market, stocks like AMD don't drop 8% in a day, right? Like, that doesn't happen. These are big companies, If you're a bull and you want to bounce something tomorrow, you got Amazon here at the 200-day moving average. It's tested a few times. Kind of boring, but, take what you can get, right? Take what you can get. It likes to bounce off this stuff. But there's not that many, there's no good looking charts left, right? So your play right now is to do like some level of mean reversion if you can get it. But frankly, all these names look like they have a lot more to come. If you get a gap up tomorrow on Oklo, I'd keep shorting this down into probably the 200-day moving average, if not lower. But 200-day moving average seems like a logical spot, as that's where it started its last run. So you have like these kind of names. And if you look here, right, this looks like like a little bit of the middle finger, right? Like it's like, that's your, classic, right? Head and shoulders, Batman signal, right? So you've got like some big kind of rollovers on these things. You have still more downside even IONQ, right? If it loses its 200-day moving average, you can see it's tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The more times you test the level, the weaker it gets. You lose the 200-day moving average on this, it's done so, right? Same thing, like you're at a big support here on RGTI, so theoretically, if the market's going to bounce, maybe you get a push on this, but it doesn't look like it's coming until you get kind of maybe down into 200-day moving average too. Something to be mindful of. Fridays have been pretty bullish. Last Friday, it's like it looked like maybe there's going to be some weakness in the markets, and then, things kind of rip as they do on Fridays. So don't be surprised tomorrow if you get a big gap down. So you got a 1 or 2% gap down or something. Probably some bulls will step in momentarily. But on a longer term basis, this looks like your kind of classic, right, cock and balls pattern, right? Where it's just like, head and shoulders. You got some, meat cleavers over here. It's just what it is, right? So stay nimble, stay safe. I don't think you need a big watch list. They're all going to move around together. Like if you see here, Meta looks like a bear flag, right? Apple looks like it's rolling over. Google had a fake breakout. Tesla's a bear flag here. If you take out this trend line here, about 390, should get a Friday fail. Fake breakout again on AVGO. Microsoft, the nastiest of them, and it's in a downtrend, right? Any pops on this in the morning, probably fade it, and then just be kind of mindful. Like, you have to be flexible. As soon as everybody gets bearish, the market will teach you a lesson and it'll squeeze up. Even if it doesn't squeeze up long term, just for that day even, right? But as like mostly short-term traders, you get smoked out even for a day, right? It causes some problems. And so, keep an eye on this. And look, you still got levels here in NVIDIA. It's not necessarily over, but you're there ain't that many good looking charts to play. So take that however it is. But yeah, I think you got some of these names here, like your Oklos and EOCs and stuff that have tons of room to fall, that are big gelatinous, turds of excrement, and they all probably got more to fall. Will it do it tomorrow? No, but on a long-term basis, there's like literally zero good charts. If you do like a scan, let's just do a scan like, I don't know, let's say you do a U.S. stocks, 30-day short, and then you add in some level of, volume. Let's just say you do, 1, 2, three, 1, 2, 3. Right, there's really not that many, right? Just good looking stocks here. Like if you look here, ain't none of the ones that you're trading are on this list, right? Like, you know, you got like some small bombers. These are all PR plays, right? Like, there ain't that, but that's a buyout. That's a buyout. Like, there ain't no good looking charts, even out of the ones that are like, you know, have been kind of leading the way. Ain't no good looking charts here. So, like, normally you would see all this kind of stuff. Even if you put a price parameter, let's say just over like 10, for example. You don't got anything, right? Let's just do 20 here for shits and giggles. You just got you ain't got nothing, right? You ain't got nothing for the rest of your days. It's a buyout, broken, right? Like broken, maybe, right? Like you just don't got that like. You don't got that juicy. Like see even something like this on the edge. And like none of the kind of the name brand stocks that you're really watching around there. So you're gonna have to do like a little bit of some. You're gonna have to actually do a little bit of research to find some good names. Like you can't just depend on the old Teslas and stuff like that because they all look like bear flags, right? Like this looks like a bear flag. So just be mindful of all that. Short watch list. Just stick with the big names. If we gap up tomorrow, I would be looking for a fade. If we have a big gap down, Fridays do often tend to be bullish. Maybe maybe you finally start a pop there, but I'd be cautious of that. The market sentiment is very nasty right now, right? It needs to get just a little bit more nasty before you can get anything meaningful. All right, I love you guys.